learn a huge lesson in unattachment and realizing that it's not the material possessions that bring happiness into our lives. They don't actually bring me that much happiness. It's my presence, it's my attitude, it's my personal power, it's my relationships. It's just being in tune with life and seeing the possibility and the abundance around it. That is what makes me happy. That was the best freaking lesson. Hello, welcome back to the podcast. And if you're someone that loves stories, that loves hearing of other people's lessons gathered through their experiences in life, then you are in store. In store? Wait, did I say the right thing? You are in store. I don't even know. You are in for a really juicy episode. I've been marinating on this episode for about 2.5 weeks since we got back from our epic freaking 10-year anniversary trip. So Rory and I celebrated 10 years together, which is incredible. And we are the type of couple to not celebrate every single anniversary. We say happy anniversary, we hug each other, but we don't do anything special for it. And for 10 years, we're just like, fuck it, we're gonna go big. So we're gonna go to friggin' Paris, to France, and to Tomorrowland. And we're gonna have Ben stay with the grandparents for that amount of time, which actually went so well. I am so impressed with Ben. It's so interesting. I had a feeling that it would be that way because we are raising him to be really independent, but also at the same time, like super loving, kind, and affectionate. And it was just so incredible to see all of that come together on the trip because whenever we would FaceTime him, he wasn't upset, like, oh no, where are you guys? He wasn't too attached. He wasn't too codependent on us. He was just very much present, having fun with the grandparents and saying, what you doing, guys? And we're like, we're over here in France. And he's like, oh, cool. I'm playing with monster trucks. And it was just so amazing to see that. And then when we came home and saw him finally, we were just like, we saw him, we peeked our eyes into the window when Roy's parents dropped him off. And he looked at us. He's like, oh my God, his whole body started shaking with excitement. He came out, he was super affectionate, gave us hugs. And I was just like, wow, this is amazing. 2.5 years. And I'm just so proud of us as parents and so proud of Ben, of how he's growing up and all of that. But what I'm excited to get into here. So I am someone who I believe that anything that is happening to us in our lives is happening for us, and circumstances unravel for us in a way where I think we are meant to find the lessons within. We are meant to find lessons that we need in that chapter of our lives. Maybe they are puzzle pieces to things that we are not clear about in our lives, or puzzle pieces to what could be causing suffering, whether that's emotional suffering or mental or any of that kind of stuff. And we're all human. We all go through this roller coaster called life, right? And so I'm so excited to dive into all the juicy details from our trip and also the 10 lessons that I learned and gathered. And it's so funny because right now, right before recording, I kind of went in because I have so many notes and I'm going to refer to all the notes because I don't want to leave any juiciness out for you. And I'm like, wow, it just ended up perfectly rounding out to 10. I actually didn't even think it would be that many. I thought it was going to maybe be 5, but it's 10. And so this trip truly felt like a metamorphosis for me. And I almost ended up getting a butterfly tattoo at Tomorrowland, but I didn't because they were booked. And I'm like, oh, okay, well then maybe I'm not meant to. Maybe I'm just meant to get this little butterfly charm thing that I got instead. And a butterfly sweater from Tomorrowland. Oh my God, it's beautiful. I love it. But it was just so incredibly transformative through all of these lessons that I'm excited to share. And there are 4 parts to this trip that we had. So the first part was we flew to Paris and we were there for about 3 days. The second part was the French countryside in the Bourgogne, I don't know, I keep forgetting how to say it, French countryside region in France. Then we took a train to Belgium, which is where Tomorrowland was. It's called Boom, Belgium, which is kind of funny because it's like the music goes boom, boom, boom. I don't know. I'm such a loser sometimes with that, but I'm like, oh, it's pretty fitting that they chose that city. And then the fourth part of our trip is the airport. And you're going to find out why. And you're going to find out why the airport and airplanes are a big part of this story and a big freaking cherry on top of the freaking ice cream at the end of our trip. And probably one of the biggest lessons of the trip. So I'm so excited to share all of that. Before I fully dive into the storytelling, I am so excited to share that just in about a month, so I don't know exactly the date this episode is coming out, but it's in about a month when the doors to Outsourcing Made Easy are reopening again. And the doors will be reopening the first week of October. So keep your eyes out, for, all of those details coming out. And if you don't know what Outsourcing Made Easy is, it is my most transformative program that I've created, the program I'm most passionate about, because it's pretty much you get my step-by-step roadmap of how I outsource successfully in my business in an affordable way, by the way. When I say affordable, I mean outsourcing has never been so affordable in my whole entire career, and I've been outsourcing for 8 years. So right now, it's so affordable. There's so many incredible options. Omi always gets updated with any new outsourcing workflows that I'm implementing, any new smarter tactics that I'm figuring out that I'm finding. It's always updated with a step-by-step how you can actually cut your working time behind your computer as a photographer by up to 70%. And the reason for this is I want you to experience having the time spaciousness in your life so that you can work less hard. That means less grinding, make more money at the same time, while also living a lifestyle that is aligned with your deepest values. I truly believe that is the key, the most important part, because if we are not living our lives in a way that we want to, in the way that we feel energized, fulfilled, really good with how we feel about how we live every single day, how we experience our relationships in our lives, how we experience our well-being, our mental health, all of that. If we are not putting that at the forefront and making it a priority, then what the heck is it all for? What the heck is even having our business that we thought would give us so much freedom? What's that all for? What is making money all for if we are just burning ourselves into the ground and overworking ourselves when we can't actually enjoy the life that we've been giving, this beautiful gift of life? And on top of that, I do want to do a special mention to parents that are photographers, because I created Omi before becoming a parent, but now that I am a parent, and if I didn't have these outsourcing workflows in place that were super affordable and time saving, if I was spending even more time behind my computer, like 70% more time, plus on top of that, being a parent and taking care of my well-being, taking care of my relationship with my spouse, with my other people in my life that are important to me, my spirituality, all of the things. I'm like, I literally don't know how I would have done it. So now I feel this even deeper calling to really take parents that are photographers by the hand, give you the step-by-step processes so that you can literally actually feel free in your life, feel free of all of those tasks that drain your energy, that bore you, that aren't actually making you money. Because at the end of the day, the two main tasks that make us the most money are shooting and marketing. And actually, I would also say delivering an unforgettable, incredible client experience along the way. But that's a little like 50% of that part can be done by outsourcing because you have your systems in place. Your virtual assistant helps you with things that are easily trainable. And then the other parts are where you actually interact with the clients, where you are the creative behind the client experience. And so when you have all this extra time spaciousness, you can actually be even more creative with your client journey. And then if you can get your word of mouth marketing up even higher, then you don't have to stress so much about being as much on social media or marketing in other ways. It all just happens organically. And it's because you decided to create spaciousness in your business so that you have the energy, the capacity, the creativity to run the business how you want to, and to actually spend your time on the things that create the big results in your business, right? That grow your business. So that's my little quick spiel about it now. I just want you to plant that. I want to plant that seed in your head, because if you're already starting to experience that overwork, that burnout, and where you are in your season, just know there is a way out of it. And I've helped over 150 students with this already. There are so many success stories that you can read. You can actually go to sarahmonica.com/freedom. You can just pre-read those now. There's a ton of information there about OMI. And that's the page where you can also get on the wait list, which is key. So this year, this time around, I'm going to be treating my waitlist peeps with an extra special like hug. Let me just say a hug. So if you want to get on the wait list, click the link in the show notes, or same link, go to sarahmonica.com/freedom. And there, only the people on the wait list will have access to secret opportunities that are not available to the public. So you want to get on that wait list, because whether OMI is the perfect fit for you or not, at least you will have the best opportunities presented to you, and so that you can feel like you got a lot little bonus things out of it. So they're just secret little surprises and opportunities. So don't miss out. Go to sarahmonica.com/freedom, or click in the show notes, get on the wait list, and yeah, you'll be hearing a lot more about OMI in the upcoming month. So, as I finished saying that, it was 11:11. Wow. I've already been talking for 11 minutes and 11 seconds. Okay, so let's get to the storytelling. Oh my gosh. So, first things first, we landed in Paris. And I just want to say that, by the way, like the time change, I don't know about you guys, but I always hear people around me like panicking about the time change and being like, oh my God, it's going to be so intense. It's going to be so bad. I'm going to be so tired. And I'm just like, that doesn't make sense to me. Why would I just decide in advance that that's going to be what it's like? Why am I going to put those words out into the world, put that frequency out? Because then the words that we speak are the words that create our actual reality. So, my little time shift hack, in case this helps you in any way, and I do this with Ben, by the way, and I will tell you it works the same way. So, I literally am just like, when I'm flying there, whenever we land, I do not even think about the time it is back home in Canada. I am just like, what are you talking about? I trick my brain. I'm like, oh, yeah, we landed. It's like 10 a.m. here now. And normally, I guess technically in Canada, it would be 6 hours before, or five, something like that. So it'd be like late in the night, right? But I trick my brain and I'm just like, yeah, it's 10 a.m. here in Paris right now. And that's the time it has always been. There's nothing that has changed. And we're just going to have an amazing fun day. And then we're going to go to sleep later. Like, I just tell myself that. I do not look at clocks. Roy thinks I'm crazy with this. He's like, oh, it's like 5 a.m. back. I'm like, nope, I don't know what you're talking about. He's like, I can't even talk to you about this. I'm like, no, you can't, because I want to enjoy my time. I don't want to be overexhausted. And over the years, he's starting to like see the benefit in it. And so he's kind of like, okay, yeah, all right, it's 10 a.m. It's always been, right? But it's even worked with Ben. So we've traveled with him a couple times already, kind of when there was a time change. And the biggest one was when we went to Poland last year so he could meet my family for the first time. And that's a 6-hour difference. And both ways, I just set up my frequency within my body as it's always been this time. There's no point in being tired right now because it's in the middle of the day and we had a good rest. I just trick myself. And I truly believe that the energy that we feel, like our kids feel, and they take it on. And so Ben would just be like, blah, 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 playing around, doing all the things, like playing all day, being fine, not being super fussy. And then it's 8 p.m. or 7 p.m. in Poland, bedtime, when technically it's like what, 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. in Canada, when it's like way past his bedtime. And he's just like, oh, okay, it's bedtime now. And then he wakes up right after like a 10, 11-hour sleep. And then we start the day and our clocks are totally changed within our bodies. Like, I've done that. It's worked so amazingly. And on the way back to Canada, it worked the same way. It literally took no time to just switch him back and switch myself back. So just want to let you know about that hack. Try it out next time you travel. So when we were in Paris, oh my gosh, we did so much freaking walking, so much walking. And one thing I will say, that the first night we did sleep, we were like, fuck it. We are firstly, technically, we were technically quote unquote jet lagged, right? But I wanted to phrase it as, you know what, we're parents, we're tired. This is our first opportunity, not first, but like a rare opportunity for us to be able to sleep in. So the first night we slept for 14 hours straight. We're like, this is part of our trip. Like, we just want to have a big ass sleep in, no limits, just like do that, fuck it. So that's what we did. We had a 14 hours sleep in after we did so much freaking walking the first day, exploring. And then the next day, a lot more exploring. Rory really loves the like historical aspects, the buildings, and I kind of was just like, you know what, I want to see Paris through his eyes. I'm going to follow him. Let's just walk around. Let's go where he wants to go. And it felt so fun to just like float through. And we had like 25 to 30,000 steps every single day. It was so much fun. We even ended up accidentally being in Paris on one of like their big celebratory days. It's called Bastille Day. And we ended up seeing fireworks from the Eiffel Tower at night, which is so rare. Like, I would assume it's like once or twice a year for some kind of reason. And that was really, really cool. It was really fun getting a spot. And I just love the feeling of Paris, of just, you're just walking, exploring. There's some quieter areas, there's some louder areas, there's so much architecture everywhere. Everything is so charming. And then all of those little like cafes on the side of the road with those little chairs just inviting you to like sit down for a quick bite or a quick drink and like be spontaneous about it. Like, that was so much fun to just be able to flow and be spontaneous. And so I'm coming to the lessons, because actually more lessons came in halfway into the end of the trip. But one of our like big celebratory moments that we decided to do was to book a fancy ass restaurant. And we just wanted to like have like a tasting menu with a wine pairing and just like go eat some really, really great food. So we went to Eclipse's. Roy made the reservation. And I love how I'm always constantly training myself and practicing to be unapologetically myself. And I find it through like little opportunities. So, for example, I personally hardly ever wear heels. It just, I do not, it's not comfortable. It takes away the fun for me. But there are certain occasions where I feel up to it. And I'm like, you know what? Why not? Like, so like for our freaking 10-year anniversary at a fancy ass restaurant, I'm like, yes, I'm going to wear heels, but not walking to the restaurant. So I put my heels on just outside of the restaurant. Then I feel like really nice in my outfit and my heels. It's a little extra special. And then we go to sit down and we're sitting there for, I think it was like a 2.5 to 3 hour experience. So halfway through, I'm sitting there with my heels on and I'm just sitting there and I'm like, why are my feet hurting from these heels? I'm not even walking in them. And it's just the way that they're squishing my feet together and everything. And I was just like, oh, I want to take them off. So that was my instinct. I'm like, I want to take them off. And then I'm like, my brain goes, but no, you're at a fancy ass restaurant. Like, you're just going to have your feet out. And I'm like, you know what? Yeah, because I want to experience this how I want to experience this. And I was also being like, I had other people in mind, but there was no tables filled beside us, just people kind of across the restaurant. So I'm like, okay, you know what? Like, there's no one right beside us. If someone that does have a foot issue, I'm not going to gross them out. And it was pretty like, if you saw my Instagram story, you know what I'm talking about, because I actually showed a video of my feet out. But yeah, it was nice and like concealed in a way. But yeah, it's just those little moments in life where we have these opportunities to practice being ourselves unapologetically. And I typically find if I have the thought, no, I shouldn't because others, or it's not how other people do it, or this isn't like normal, like those little thoughts can creep in. That's when I'm like, oof, set that aside. If I am not actually being like rude to anyone, if I'm not actually, doing something to harm someone else, I'm like, I'm really not doing anything wrong. So I might as well just be free. Because if I like keep inside who I really want to be, that will just lead to more issues. And I truly believe that, like, suppressing who we really are, I think could just link to so many other things, like health stuff and like depression, and just it all just unfolding that way. So it's a constant practice for me. And I teach about it in my Crystal Clear marketing mini course, about how it's a constant practice for me, how I show up as a personal brand, and how it has really, really increased my confidence over the years, and also my success in my photography business. Honestly, the more fearlessly I'm just myself, the more successful I am in my photography business. It's literally correlated. It's the coolest thing. So that's a little bit about Paris. But the one lesson that I take from Paris, because I was still like, I was just so present, like taking everything in. But the one thing I did notice was, you know how sometimes you make up this like fantasy in your mind of when you're about to travel somewhere, and it's like, wow, when I get there, I'm going to reach this new level of like happiness and joy, and I'm going to feel so free, and I'm going to have this feeling that's like almost like ecstasy in a way, right? I haven't done ecstasy, but I've done MDMA, and we'll get to a thing about MDMA later. But no, I didn't do MDMA at Tomorrowland. Anyway, so it's this feeling that we're after. And I think we're after that a lot in our careers, in our life. It's this like, that's why I think the anticipation towards a trip is like this, like, when I get there, finally we're going to reach that point, right? And I had this realization. It's like, I'm in Paris with Rory. We're free. We get to do what we want when we want. Like, abundance everywhere. Like, wow, we get to relax, we get to rest, we get to connect, all of these things. But it wasn't that ecstasy feeling that we think, that magical feeling. And then I asked myself, I'm like, why isn't that? Why? And I noticed it's because I could easily say, like, oh, I could look for everything that's missing, right, in the moment. And I could say, oh, well, I just want to see Ben for a moment, give him a hug. Or I want to put him down for bedtime. It's such a magical time for us. Or we miss our bed and our pillows, like those little things. And I think that's what takes away from actually every single moment in our lives being magical, and actually feeling like ecstasy. And so I realized, hey, Sarah, this is your opportunity, that no matter where you are, you can be the same amount of happy as you choose. So, lesson number one, if I could summarize it, would be, I'm as happy as I choose to be. And that's by focusing on the abundance, the possibility, the using all of your senses to take everything in. It's honestly just being present. And I really was very proud of myself of how I practiced that, because I let go of so much. I let go of every time I had a thought of like, oh, I wish I had my pillow from home. Like, no, like, but look at everything else you have. You guys have spaciousness to sleep in, and not have to be a parent for right now for the week. And, all of these things. You're in freaking Paris, right? So I just kind of like moved into that. And that is honestly what helped create the trip to be so special and memorable already from the start, because I already took on that mindset from the start, and I didn't let that like attitude of lack, or I wish this or I wish that, get in the way of that. So that was huge. So lesson one, I'm as happy as I choose. So then after Paris, oh, by the way, I mean, there's so many other stories I can say about Paris, but I'm like, I really need to like focus so that this episode isn't like 2 freaking hours long. There's my stuttering. 2 freaking hours long. But as a quick side note, it was really cool because spontaneously we got to see the Olympic flame go by us. So if you saw my stories on Instagram, you saw how that went down, and that was super fun. That was pretty spontaneous. But yeah, Paris, a lot of good food, a lot of walking, a lot of just being present with each other, seeing architecture, all the things, soaking it in. So then phase two of our trip was the French countryside. So We took a train ride, which was so nice and relaxing. Oh my gosh, I love train rides, even with our big ass luggages, because I'm like, I am not being a minimalist for this trip. I am packing all my favorite shit and putting it into the suitcase. And then, Rory, you can have your own separate suitcase. So it was a nice little extra workout for, getting to the train with our luggages, everything. But yeah, on the train ride, we got to just like kind of chill, have our own little times. And of course, I turned to podcasting. And I remember I felt really drawn to hear about Manifestation Babe and her transition into motherhood. And I like scrolled way back because I remembered like she had a podcast episode come out like when she became a mom, but that was a while back, maybe 2 and a bit years ago now. And so I scrolled way back and I just intuitively picked that episode. And it was just so amazing just to hear her just being so real about her like challenges and how much it fucks with your head, really, the transition of becoming a mom or becoming a parent. Um, because it's something we can never really expect or prepare for. And it's like personal growth on steroids. So I really loved how she shared everything. And she mentioned this woman she really looks up to. Her name is Mel Wells. And she talks about how she felt drawn to learn more about feminine energy. And so I was like, that is the next puzzle piece. I need to learn about feminine energy. So I followed that rabbit hole. And then I discovered Mel Wells on a couple podcasts, and she's sharing the 7 different feminine archetypes. And I dove into that, and it freaking resonated with me so much. So she pretty much talks about how there's different. Oh my gosh, okay. This is lesson 2. There's actually 11 lessons. Okay, I'm just gonna like write this down because this is what lesson 2 is. So she talks about all like the different feminine archetypes, and there's like the mother, the maiden, the queen, the wild one. I can't remember them all, but there's like 7 of them. And she describes that all of us women are experiencing the light side of an archetype or the shadow side at different stages in our lives. And it's very helpful to know which one we are in so that we can know um, how to use it to our advantage as a tool, and also how to just become aware of like, see, I cannot even explain it. Pretty much, just to summarize, like you definitely, I'll link the episode with Mel Wells of like her on a podcast. I believe it's the Earn Your Happy podcast with Lori Harder. So it's linked in the show notes. So definitely after this episode, go check out that episode if you're feeling drawn to learning how to be in tune with your feminine energy as a superpower instead of always just tapping into your masculine energy, which is more of like the go, 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 to-do list, got to do this, got to do this. And then there's no room for intuition, for flow, for space, like all of those things. And like that is something that spoke so much to me of all the 7 different archetypes there are. So click that link after, check her out. But one thing that she said that was so fascinating was the law of polarity between feminine and masculine. And if you think about, being in a relationship, whether it's you with your spouse, like, so if I think I'm female and then Rory is male, then I have more feminine energy attributes that are more um, authentic to me. And then he has more masculine energy within him. But then keep in mind for same sex couples as well, there could be one partner that just has a little bit more feminine energy within them. And then the other one is meant to have more masculine. And it's the combination of the two coming together. Opposites attract. That's why they say opposites attract. That's why it's an actual law in the universe, the law of polarity. That's why opposite magnets attract, right? So she mentioned something of like, if the person in the relationship that is meant to be holding the feminine energy is meant to be just being in their feminine essence, if they are too much in their masculine energy, if that is taking over, then that could actually repel their masculine partner. And it could actually cause friction and headbutting. And it could also cause their business to not be running as smoothly because they're not actually tapping into the energy that is meant for them and their superpower. And she mentioned something like, if if you're in a woman man relationship and you're trying to micromanage your man and be like, I think we should take this way, this route, these directions. Or are you sure you got it? Are you sure you got it? Okay, let's plan this, let's plan this. And you're just too much in your masculine energy of thinking about the to-do list, thinking about the strategy, then that actually doesn't allow them to be in their masculine and just take care of us. And when I've heard this around on social media a bit, it kind of felt a little odd. It's like, but the way she explained it, I'm like, it felt so natural. And I'm like, oh my gosh, wait a second. That makes total sense because when we were in Paris, I kind of just let Rory like lead in the sense of like, he figured out the subway system. I didn't have to figure that shit out. And I felt so relieved because I don't want to think about that strategy. And I just kind of like, he just like grabbed my hand, floated me around. He's like, we're going to go like down this subway, and then we'll get to the location we want to go to and see. And I'm like, oh, amazing, perfect, love it. And I felt so relaxed and we felt so connected. And I'm like, that makes so much sense. And I remember earlier, and when we first had Ben, I would have these moments of like when we're transitioning into being parents, right? It's like if it was Rory's turn to take care of Ben, then I would be like, oh, wait, but are you sure you have this? Oh, make sure you do this and do this and do this. And at one point, he's like, Sarah, like, I need to figure this out on my own too. And like, I have my own ways. And like, you're literally helicopter parenting me. You just cannot let go of control. And it's like, that's when we didn't feel in that moment, that day, that like that smooth like flowing attraction and teamwork, right? Because I was too in my masculine. He also just wanted to be himself and problem solve and be in his masculine. So as soon as I like let go, and whenever I'm with Ben, and of course I have to be in my masculine as a parent, you always have to be on the lookout for like the next thing that could possibly go wrong. You have to protect them, you have to strategize, you have to figure out, hey, how can I say this to them so they'll actually listen, right? So if I'm with Ben alone or we're together with him, sure, but it's like the quote unquote darker side of mothering. And I don't want to say darker because not necessarily, the shadow, that's what she calls it. The shadow is the can't let go of control, the overanalyzing, the helicopter parenting. And I can see a total difference in the family dynamic when I am just like, I'm feeling into like, in this moment, I'm meant to be in my feminine energy and flow. And in this moment, he's meant to be in the masculine. And like, it just resonated so freaking much and it like blew my mind. So that's lesson number 2. And I would just call it like tapping into feminine energy superpowers. And if you haven't heard of this, oh my gosh, like after this episode, go click that, listen to that. It's going to be a game changer. So we're on the train ride to the French countryside. When we get there, we get to this little town. It's called Beaune. I think I say it right. Beaune. And it's just this quaint freaking little town, cobblestone roads, totally quiet, totally peaceful. I'm like, yes, I'm not a city person. I need quiet and spaciousness to like thrive and like feel more relaxed. And so Paris was amazing for the time being. And by the way, it's not a hustle and bustle city, Paris. It has these like beautiful quiet pockets everywhere. So there's definitely not like city vibes, but I really do love my quiet. So this was amazing. And then we got to our Airbnb, it ended up being like a bigger place to stay, which was really nice. We could spread out a little bit more. And the first day, we ended up going to a wine tasting just around the corner after we like walked the little area, little town. And this guy, oh my gosh, this is where lesson number 3 comes in. So we are meant to co-create with the universe. And where this comes from is, again, I'm at this wine tasting, and I'm not one to be like, ooh, wine tasting, I can tell the difference between this wine, this wine, this wine. I'm like, I'm just there to get a little tipsy, have an experience. Why not? You know? But I'm like, I challenge myself again, taking lesson number one of being fully present. I choose to be happy instead of me being like, oh, wine tasting, it's boring. Can we just, I don't want to hear about all the rivers touching the field, then making this taste like this, you know, like, because I don't have an interest in actually wine tasting, right? But I have an interest in paying attention to people's stories, to paying attention to how different businesses run, to different lessons I'm meant to pick up along the way. So I pay attention. And so this really stood out to me. And so this guy that was leading like the wine tasting, he was so grounded in his values and in the values of that community of how they create wine. And he mentioned, we don't give them what they want. We create wine based on what the earth gives us. And he's like, there's no right or wrong. Like in places like California, for example, they're able to actually manufacture the exact wine that you want, the taste, the flavor profile, everything, blah, 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 all those things. And he's like, but here, if you look at the map here, he showed us a map, there are all these plots of land, all ranging in different sizes, and every single plot of land is different dependent on the weather, the rocks, the time of year, all the things, and it changes sometimes from year to year. And so they don't actually fight with nature to create the wines. They're saying we don't give the wine people what they want, like to a T. Like, we want this kind of wine. Can you make it for us? Right? They literally are like, we embrace what nature is giving us and we do our best to then co-create with it and then end up with this finished product. Right. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that was a perfect metaphor for being a photographer, for photographing, for shooting. And it just brings me back to everything that I teach in intuitive storytelling, in my intuitive storytelling wedding course, where I literally, you see behind the scenes of me documenting full wedding day. You learn about my whole process of how I get my couples ready for wedding days, how I get myself ready. And a lot of that is how I use my intuition, how I tune into people's energy on different wedding days, how I tune into literally like the universe, like source, where am I meant to be at what moment? And like, I tune into that to document their story authentically and in a way that flows, in a way that where I'm not stressed throughout the day, being like, am I missing something? Am I missing something? I just know and I trust and I have this deep knowing that I'm exactly where I'm meant to be. And I truly believe that it's because I'm co-creating with the universe. And this was the perfect metaphor of how he's like, we surrender and we embrace what's happening and we're co-creating. And it's exciting because then there's a new thing that could come out of this little plot of land this year, right? So that was lesson number 3. I thought that was really a fun one to mention to you guys. And lesson number 4, still from the same guy here at the wine tasting. He gave me and then another lesson after that, but he was just so incredible. I feel like when I was looking at him and I was so present and I was like just there listening to him, and whenever he would look at me in the eyes, you know, you have those moments of like, whoa, this is deep. I am meant to cross paths with this person, and I feel like they're like an angel sending me a lesson. It like makes me a little choked up even thinking about it. So lesson 4 was from him, and it was this: every day is worth celebrating. And so he was so passionate when he was sharing how he lives his life with his family. And he says, we don't wait till birthdays or anniversaries or New Year's to open that new bottle of wine or that really old 70-year-old bottle of wine or champagne. We just do it because we want to. And life is short and it's about enjoying the moment. Oh gosh, that makes me so choked up. And I think it's so linked to my bigger purpose and drive and mission in this world. And that's what I do through OMI. Really. It's like every single day, every single moment is to be enjoyed. And if we're just constantly on the cycle of overwork and burnout and in this like busy work cycle of stress, then we're not actually pausing to enjoy it. And so I'm so passionate about giving photographers the tools to be able to actually live life this way and have the spaciousness. So, oh my gosh, that hit my heart so much. And it's a way of living that I feel like Rory and I already have actually embodied for such a long time. So at the start of the episode, when I remember I was like, oh, Rory and I don't really like celebrate our anniversary every single year. It's because we've always had that attitude of like, we celebrate each other every day. Like we need to, it's a practice, and it's like a muscle to be grateful for each other every day for as much as you possibly can. Of course there are ups and downs in relationships, of course not every day is fucking magic and sunshine and rainbows, but like if you do put in that gratitude and appreciation and respect for each other every single day as much as possible, then that's what you end up with. It's the fucking compound effect of life. You end up being grateful for each other, respecting each other, and not taking each other for granted. Like, so when he said that, I'm like, yes, it's just so refreshing hearing someone share this message. And to me, I'm like, this guy needs to be on a podcast or something, because it was just us and a room. Like, sorry, it was him and a room of 4 people that included me and Rory. We were on like a mini little wine tasting. This guy just was spewing wisdom, and I'm like, you need to share this message with the world, because yes, it's simple, but like, how often do we need this reminder? Because life can get so busy if we don't pay attention and intentionally slow ourselves down, right? So that's lesson 4. Every day is worth celebrating. Lesson 5, this is the last one from the wine man. So there is no such thing as good or bad. And that's my summary of it. But what he said was, there is no such thing as good or bad wine. It's subjective. And I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, this is so refreshing hearing this from someone who is such an expert in wine. Like, he literally has like 5,000, 6,000 bottles of wine in his cellar. His kids that just turned like 18, 19 have like 1,000 each. They're just like, this is what they do, this is what they know. He was a sommelier in like Michelin star restaurants, and it was so refreshing to hear him say that, because we always assume that, an expert in wine, sommelier, is going to have like these opinions on like, that wine is better, this one's not that good. But the fact that he just respected every human on this planet by saying, guess what? You get to choose what wine you want. It doesn't matter if it's the $8 bottle of wine or $1,000 bottle of wine. Like, if you like it, what the heck more do we need? Like, it's totally subjective. And this is a beautiful metaphor just in life in general for so many different things. And like, it just makes me think of like, whatever happens, I guess, to us or for us in our life, let's maybe not label it so quickly as good or bad, and actually create our own definition of what's happening for us, because it is subjective. Because whatever meaning we do put on a situation or a thing that's happening to us, or he said this, she said that, that happened, like, okay, but what is a meaning we could put on it that's actually useful for us, that could give us a better experience, right? Or is this a boundary that I'm noticing that I want to put up? And so that's not my flavor of wine. Like, doing that in my business, I don't like that flavor. I'm just going to go over here and try this other thing. Oh, actually this flavor. I like this flavor. I'm going to stick with it, right? So let's not label things of like, this person ghosted me and didn't let me know if they wanted to book me or not. That's bad, right? It's easy for us to label it as bad. But what if it's just the universe giving you an easier way out? What if that's just one less email to deal with from someone just writing you being like, hey, we decided to go with another photographer. That's one less email for you to deal with, one less email to go through. There's also like so many other things that are in play. Like, maybe someone else that is a photographer that, really badly needed that booking even more so than you did or you wanted, and it helped them immensely. It's like, we never know what's happening. And it's like, so maybe you didn't get booked by that client, but maybe someone else did. And it's like, let's celebrate that someone else did. And we know that someone else did because that person needs a freaking wedding photographer or a photographer for whatever they're doing, right? So let's not label it as good or bad. It just is what it is. Take out the freaking stress. Because if we continue to stress, as just the example that I gave, if we continue to stress over people that are ghosting us from inquiries or not booking us, what does stress create? Overwhelm. It creates feelings of anger, frustration, flight or fight mode, and that totally blocks our creativity, our intuition, our joy. And guess where we problem solve from? We problem solve from being in our creativity or in our intuition, not when we're stressed. So if you are angry or stressed, or you think someone ghosted you and that is bad, flip it, have a different type of wine and be like, that's not useful for me. I'm literally just stressing, instead of just like thinking of a new post I could put together, or reaching out to a vendor, collaborating with them. I don't know, just another creative marketing idea. Set that aside and keep your power and turn it into a good thing. Turn it into a good thing. I love to tell my brain, like, oh, this person didn't want to book me for this specific date next year. That means that date is staying open for something even better. Something even better. And I even take it to the length of either a wedding that is like so much more aligned with me or will pay me even more, or even the exact day off I will need that summer with my family. So this or even better. So yeah, those are the lessons from the French countryside. And clearly a lot came from that wine man. And as a bonus, I'll throw in there, you guys, we went biking and cycling on e-bikes through the French countryside. Wow. I did not expect it to hit me so hard, feeling so grounded and present in nature and like so expanded. Like we rented these e-bikes, we're kind of biking through the little town, and then we turn a corner and then it just opens up to this vast vineyard countryside with like the perfectly little quaint like biking lane where little cars also sometimes drive by, but it's very rare. And then you see bikers going by or saying hi or smiling, and it's just sunshine and vineyards and little freaking quaint towns with like the center being the church, and then a little like shops, and then the cobblestone roads. Oh my gosh. And we were supposed to go like biking around and wine tasting, and I just haven't been drinking that much wine lately. I don't know what it is. So I had maybe like 2 or 3 glasses of wine the whole entire day, like spread out. So I definitely didn't get tipsy or anything, and I was just like more than happy just being like on that bike and cruising around. So that was incredible. So if you do go to the French countryside, if you do go to Beaune, so that's Beaune, do that. It is bucket list. It's incredible. All right. So then, oh my gosh, then phase 3 of the trip, we head over to Tomorrowland. Oh my gosh. Okay, so lesson number 5. Okay, so we trained over to Belgium. Oh my god, no, wait, I have another story. Okay, I cannot forget this story. So we trained over to Belgium and we were staying in a city called Antwerp, which is about half an hour away from where Tomorrowland was. So the first night we went out, we walked around Antwerp, got some food, got some drinks. Oh my gosh, my new freaking favorite drink. Oh, it's called Porn Star Martini. And when I saw it on the drink menu, I'm like, Porn Star Martini, that makes me think of those like really sugary shots from back when I was like in my 20s at clubs. I'm like, ugh, that doesn't sound good. But when I read the ingredients, it's like passion fruit puree. I think it's some tequila, and then lime and a little bit of like champagne in there, something like that. Oh my gosh, it was so delicious and like the perfect summer drink. So that was like my new favorite thing. So whenever we did have a drink anywhere, I would order that. But near the end of like us finishing eating, I was walking over to another bar just to ask them what time dancing was starting that night, because we were thinking about possibly going out and dancing for like an hour before hitting the sack to then be fresh for Tomorrowland the next day. And I'm passing by a table outside on the patio, and someone's like, "Are you Sarah Monica?" I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "Yes." I'm like, "I'm so confused. We're in Belgium right now." And she's like, "Oh my gosh, you're Sarah. Oh my gosh, my boyfriend Brice, he takes your outsourcing course. We've taken your outsourcing course. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? I'm like, there's no way. And then she stands up with like hug and all this stuff. I'm like, this is incredible. No way. She's like, what are you up to? Like, can we buy you drinks? She was with her friend. She's like, can we buy you drinks? I'm like, yeah. Me and Rory like sat down with them, started talking. And she's like, yeah, like Bryce has taken all your courses, crystal clear marketing, intuitive storytelling. Oh, me. I've taken them too because now I'm also becoming a photographer, and I'm like, I've taken everything of yours and you're incredible. I'm like, this is insane. And you guys, I have to be open and honest and vulnerable with you. In this line of work of like teaching online and podcasting and a lot of that, like at times my brain can get the best of me, my thoughts can get the best of me, and it tricks me to saying like, Sarah, like you're not good enough to help people, or you're like your work isn't actually creating an impact. You might as well like slow down and stop and all these things. So I've been battling with some of these demons, you guys, which is like, I think you can also relate because the same thing happens in our photography, right? It's like, oh, like my work isn't good enough, or like who even cares? Like, am I actually even going to make my clients happy, right? And it's like I haven't dealt with this in a really, really long time. So it's very interesting that it has been coming up for me. And um yeah, I've come a long way with it. But I got so emotional with that moment because this whole trip I was like, universe, I'm paying attention to the lessons, I'm paying attention to puzzle pieces. And it's so weird because I have so many freaking reviews and testimonials from my students, and I have so many podcast reviews and all of these things, but our freaking ego can still get in the way and trick us and be like, you're not doing a good enough job. And it can just feel sometimes like you're just speaking into the abyss and you're not receiving as much back. Because let's be honest, if I go listen to a podcast episode and if it was even profoundly life changing for me, like the Mel Wells one I was telling you about, it's very rare that I ever go into their DMs or email them and say, thank you, this helped me in this way, thank you, thank you, thank you, right? So I don't do it either. And so if I'm not getting thanked as often for like the podcast episodes, all of that, and I'm a generator and I'm meant to respond to people, that's how I get energized. It's hard to stay energized. And then it's hard to like not let those thoughts actually take over you. You know what I mean? So that happening, and I was just like, it makes me want to cry because what are the freaking chances? What's the synchronicity that in a world with 8 billion people, and I have 150 outsourcing made easy students to date, that there we cross paths. That was the synchronicity. It blew my mind, and it was honestly the this like weird spiritual validation that I needed. It was a sign of like, keep going. You're helping people. You're making an impact. Don't give up. Don't let that like trickster, voice in your head fool you. And so incredible to connect with her in person. And then she FaceTimed her boyfriend Brees, and she FaceTimed him, and she's like, okay, I'm gonna just quickly turn the phone to you. And then she's like, hey, guess who I'm with? And he's just like, whatever, like FaceTiming her. And then she turns the phone to me, and I'm like, Bryce. I actually didn't know. I'm like, Bryce Brees, because when you read the name online, you don't really know how to say it. So I found out it was Brees. I'm like, oh my gosh, hi. He's like, what is happening? He was so confused. And then as soon as he could, he was all the way in Brussels. I think it's about an hour away. He just figured out a way. Like me and Roy weren't going to be there long at the bar because we wanted to go to sleep to get rested. But he just like jumped on either a train or Uber. I don't even know. And at the end, after we hung out with his girlfriend for like, oh, her name is Sarah as well, for like an hour. It was so much fun. And her friend, it was so great to connect. At that tail end, he like landed there and I saw him like, oh my God, wait, you're in person. And we hugged. And I have photos of this. And I'm like, wait, you're so fucking tall. What the hell? Because you never know over Zoom how tall people are. And he's so freaking tall. I'm like, whoa, I had to like reach to hug him. So that was an incredible experience. That's a bonus lesson in there that I'm just throwing in there because that was incredible. So it was this like spiritual validation that I got of like, you are helping people, keep going, Don't let your ego keep you playing small. Like, you got this. So that was amazing. So then the next day we get to Tomorrowland, and I can't even express to you the level of details. Okay, this is the next lesson number 6. So lesson number 6 is the details matter and they compound. And I'm just quickly updating my notes here because I know I've like added a lesson in the middle. So I want to make sure I stay on track. Okay, we're good. So the details matter and they compound because the level of detail in the art, the design of the stages, the the extra entertainment, the costumes, the shops, the freaking garbage cans looked magical. The way that, like, even they had a person at every bathroom entry standing there. In one hand, they had sunscreen because it was like a super hot sunny day and we're out in the sun the whole day. In one hand, they had sunscreen, and in the other hand, they had spray on deodorant, and both of them were sprays. So, like, if anyone needed extra deodorant love or like sunscreen, the person was just standing there and spraying people, but they had a huge smile on their face, and they were like, not just like there, like, you know, when sometimes you go into a store or something and someone's like, you just know they don't give a fuck. They don't want to be there. They don't want to help. They don't give a shit. They want to be somewhere else, right? And it's like this place, every single person working there had this presence to them, had this like this heart to just serve whoever was there and be there for them. And they were just like full of love and heart. And it was incredible. Even just the spray person. And people were just like walking up, getting their armpits sprayed, having so much fun. And I'm like, that is a level of detail because if you're out and about all day, you don't want to be carrying around a big backpack because I was even thinking because we got lockers and I'm like, oh damn, should we bring sunscreen? I'm like, no, I'm gonna apply now and then I'm gonna, if we need it, we'll come back for it because we don't want to be lugging around a backpack. I just had my little fanny pack because when you're in the crowd and dancing, it gets really hot. You don't want like to deal with another thing to hold. So the fact that they thought of that detail of like, hey, people aren't going to want to be holding things. We don't want people to experience being sunburned because that's just going to lead to other things like dehydration, them missing out on the experience that we're here to provide. All of these things, they were proactive about this and they thought about this detail. And that was impeccable, incredible. They had a freaking area where you could order food from Michelin star restaurants, but they had it set up in like these booths where the booths were set up impeccably. It looked so fucking amazing, like out of a magazine. And then they served it on these compostable, beautiful brown plates. And like the straws were made of pasta so that it's like conscious they're not made of plastic or like paper. They were pasta and they were so like thick and strong it actually felt like metal. It was so crazy. So like the level of detail that they had there was insane. And so this just makes me think of like it's a perfect metaphor for business, right? I got so inspired there of like how much are we paying attention to every single part of the process our clients go through with us? Can we foresee how they will be feeling in different parts of the workflow, and can we be proactive enough to like reach out to them first before they even have to ask the question, right? Before they have a bad experience like getting sunburned, right? So just think of it like that. And I have to say that um I don't even think I've ever said this, but one of my first coaches ever, he said, if you want to build a successful, thriving business, create evangelists. And what he meant by that is create such an unforgettable, incredible experience that they can't help but talk about you to everyone, even people that aren't related to the topic, even people that aren't getting married, right? Because at the end of the day, if the word is spread about you and someone remembers someone passionately talking about a specific photographer having a certain experience, maybe it's a mom of a future like couple getting married, like then they're going to go back and ask their friend, wait, who's that photographer you were talking about, and refer you, right? And so that is definitely what I've experienced over the years in my business is like creating these evangelists that are like, oh my God, like they literally say, and it's not true because it can't be true, but they're like, Sarah Monica is the best. Sarah Monica is the best. She is the best. You want to hire her, don't hire anyone else, right? It's obviously not true because art is subjective and it's not possible for anything to be the best in the world. But like those words carry weight. And when people look for referrals, those words matter a lot. So when I say I've never said this about an experience, it's I'm now the evangelist for Tomorrowland. And I'm saying it was a 12 out of 10 experience. 12 out of 10, 12 out of 10, 12 out of 10. And oh my gosh. So I'll get into more lessons because Tomorrowland, there's a lot more to go through. But lesson 7, oh, by the way, the music, like, of course, the freaking music. There were 15 stages. The music just like vibrating through the ground, through the surroundings, into my bones, into my soul, me dancing my freaking life away. Like, I don't know why I said life away, but just dancing my heart out. And also the people that were there, such good vibes. And I loved seeing the range of ages there. It was so amazing. There were like 60-year-olds there enjoying Tomorrowland, which I'm like, that's going to be me. Like, and it even kind of destigmatized EDM festivals for Rory because he had this idea from like, whenever, if we would go to Veld, it's just like, it's all ages. So there could be like 16-year-olds there or whatever. And it just like, it's a little bit of a different energy. And he was like, "Ooh, I'm like 40. I don't know if I can like go to those anymore." And I totally get where he's coming from because I used to go to this place called Nashville North when I was like 18, 19, somewhere here. And then when I was 24, 25, I went to it again and I'm like, wait, I feel like just the energy just is different. I don't know how to explain it. It just doesn't work anymore. But then you go to Tomorrowland and you see this wide array of people, and he's like, oh my God, wait, okay. This is just my place. And has already said, he's like, can we go again next year? Like, I want to go again. So that was so beautiful to see all these different ages. And I even saw like parents with their like older kids there. So like let's say the kids were anywhere like 18, 19, 20, and their parents, and they were just like jamming, enjoying the music. Like it's so amazing. So that's just a little bit, just the tip of the iceberg. Okay, so lesson 7. Lesson 7, we are meant to do what we want and be authentically us. So let me let you in on a little secret of mine. So I love shuffling. I adore it. It's so much fun. And when I hear that beat drop, that music drop to that with that EDM music, and I am able to like shuffle to it, it brings me so much joy and I feel like I'm just floating around. And it's so much fun. But I've never actually taken things a step further and learned a lot more other shuffling techniques because there's so many more ways I can improve it because I only know like a handful of dance moves for shuffling. And I got in my head at a point of thinking, for the last 10 years, Sarah, you've been doing the same shuffling moves over and over and over and over again. You're boring. No one cares. You're not that good. Like, why would you even like shuffle? Those thoughts can pop into my head, right? And I don't let them stop me. Like, I still shuffle, but I'm like, I'm an observer to those thoughts. It's very interesting, right? And so when I was like in Tomorrowland, of course, I don't care. I'm gonna fucking shuffle because I want to and I enjoy it, and I just did it. Obviously, that didn't stop me. It doesn't really faze me. But then something interesting happened because I was just doing my thing of shuffling for my own enjoyment because I wanted to, and I was doing the same moves that to me, technically I'm sick of them. Like I know how to fucking do it. I've seen myself do it over and over again. I've shared it on Instagram over and over again. But in the moment, it's like I'm doing it for the first time ever because I'm present and the past doesn't exist, the future doesn't exist. I'm just in the moment and I'm just enjoying the heck out of this music and the way my body's moving. And so I started shuffling really intensely to this one song. And it was kind of in the beginning of Tomorrowland because I was all hyped. I'm like, oh my God, I finally get to shuffle at Tomorrowland. And then I realized people around me being like, whoa, they were like in awe and in shock when I stopped. Like they were like, oh my God, you're amazing. And they gave me high fives. And I'm like, what? I'm like, that's just like, it's nothing special. I literally thought that to myself. I'm like, it's nothing special. I've done it so many other times, but we can forget. We can easily forget that our gifts that we are just so used to, where sometimes we take them for granted, and we might not even share them with the world because we think, oh, it's not a big deal, like it's whatever. But really, to someone else, it's like a wow moment or an inspirational moment. And that made me realize that we are meant to show up as who we want to be in that moment authentically. So that urge I had to just start dancing, whatever urges we have like that, as long as they're not like harming people, like we are meant to act on them and do life, because you never know who will get inspired by you around you with the smallest thing. And so all what I realized, and it was just a reminder, another reminder, because it's a practice. All I need to do is be me. And all I want to do is be me. And all I want is to be me just everywhere, like on this podcast, when I'm a photographer, when I'm out in Tomorrowland, when I'm with my family. Like, there's just one version of me. Why do we have to fucking overcomplicate it and be a little bit more professional here? Like, be a chameleon, right? Why? It just makes it so much harder. Life is just so much harder that way. So it just really reminded me that I do have gifts that other people haven't seen. And if I don't share them, then I'm just like taking away other people's inspiration, opportunity for inspiration, if that's what they're meant to have in that moment. So if you have, something that you want to share with the world, and it could be the smallest thing, like you going on Instagram and saying, you guys, I've discovered this tea that is just like the perfect like nightcap. It makes me feel grounded. It soothes my gut. I feel amazing every morning. Like, share that. Like, that's you being you. That's you connecting with the people that are following you, that may be future potential clients. That could be you actually helping someone with an issue they're having in their life and could be a solution for them. So don't hold back. Just be you. And let me check my notes here. Yeah, I think that's it for that one. And then, oh my gosh, so there was, oh my gosh, how do I narrow it down? Okay, I think I'm going to go into this one. So, lesson 8. So, we can access natural highs in life. So, remember earlier how I'm like, I will talk about MDMA, but don't worry, I didn't do MDMA at Tomorrowland. So, okay, the lesson is we can access natural highs in life. And to kind of ground this story in some context, so years and years ago, I don't remember when, but I went to Electric Daisy Carnival, EDC, in Vegas. And that was the first time I did MDMA. And I'm very chicken with this kind of stuff. I've only ever really smoked weed and drank alcohol. Like, I don't do hard stuff. I just don't want to trust chemicals. It felt aligned, and I did like a half little pill to start, or capsule or whatever. Did a half, saw how my body reacted, and then it did another half. So I did that, and then I did MDMA another time, like a handful of years later. Again, Veld. So only to do with like, oh no, and then I did it again another time on New Year's. So I would say 3 times. So, but in this chapter of our lives, like Rory and I have currently no urge to do MDMA, because we now have Ben, and I don't know, we're on the other side of the world, another country, and we're parents, and I'm like, we don't need it. Like, we don't need it to have fun. So it wasn't even something that came across our minds to even do it there. So now that you know that I've experienced MDMA and I know what it feels like, and it's this like intense presence and love and compassion that you have for all things around you and living and for yourself, and it's incredible. And the second day, Rory and I were at Tomorrowland, because it was a 2-day thing for us. You can go for more days, but it was a 2-day thing for us. The second day, there was this like hour and a half to 2 hours of time where we were floating between stage to stage to stage intuitively. And we were both so in sync. You know, when you're so in sync when you're hanging out with someone and you're so in sync with what you both want, the experience you want, and you just flow through together. There's no resistance, no overthinking, none of that. It was just fucking perfect. And then finally, we end up at this most epic place spot. It's called the Moose Bar. And it's this little built up cabin. And you go in, and it's like like the best bar I've ever been to in my life vibe. I cannot even explain it to you. Rory was in awe, and we were only there for like 25 minutes, half an hour, because then we floated to the next stage. But as we were coming out of the Moose bar, I was like, Rory, I'm actually a little nervous right now because I feel like, what if someone actually spiked something in my drink or something, because I'm feeling like I'm starting to feel like I'm on MDMA. And he's like, really? And I'm like, yeah, but it could just be a natural high because this is just so amazing, like this experience. And I did have one drink, literally one drink, and that was based on this time when we were walking. That drink was already maybe 45 minutes ago. I drank it and it was just like a nothing crazy. And I didn't have this feeling when I drank the drink, right? So I'm like, oh, wait, is it just hitting me now? So he's like, don't worry. Like, if it is, you'll be fine. And you just got to flow with it. And then I'm like, okay, I'm just going to be positive because you don't want to start off a high being paranoid. So I'm just like walking through, floating through, and it's not getting more intense. And then it's slowly fading a little bit because then we were like, oh, let's go get food because it was just time to feed our tummies. So then we started to think more in our heads, oh, what do I want? Do I want this? Do I want that? Do I want this? I started accessing my logical mind. And that's when it starts slowly fading. And I'm like, Rory, holy crap. Thank goodness I was not spiked with anything. But wow, I literally felt like I was starting to feel like I was on MDMA with just how present we were, how we were just floating through everything, experiencing the people, the music. I felt so much love for everyone around us. Like, I can be somehow like super awkward in public places with like making eye contact with people and smiling. And I know you might hear that and think, what, you? But it's like there's just certain scenarios where I just kind of have my head down. I don't want to connect with anyone. I just want to do me. But it wasn't there. I was just so just being. That's the best the way I could explain it. And I think I was just high on being present in life. And so that's lesson number 8. Like, we can access natural highs in life that can actually feel like you're on MDMA. Like, it's incredible. So that was a fun experience and that was a fun share. And so that was like the last lesson of Tomorrowland. I mean, I I can't. I think, do I have I don't have my phone on me, but if you go to my Instagram, Sarah Monica photo, Sarah no H, Monica with a K photo, go to my highlight section and click on Tomorrowland, and then you'll have visuals of what I'm talking about. The beauty, the freaking main stage, the theme was life. The flowers, the lights, the bubbles filled with smoke. Oh my gosh, the music, insane in the membrane. So I cannot tell you through words how amazing it was visually as well. So that was like Rory and I are going back one day for sure to Tomorrowland, maybe next year even. So yeah, that was that phase, Tomorrowland phase. 12 out of 10 recommend. And actually, no, I think this is what I need to add for sure about the experience of Tomorrowland. So it doesn't end there, because when we went the next day to fly out of Belgium to catch our flight, um, we went through security with all our luggage, all of that. And then we turned the corner. This is after security. We turn the corner and we hear like music, like a little bit of like dun, dun, dun. And you guys, the funniest thing happens after you're at a EDM. Let me know, by the way, DM me if you've ever experienced this. But if after you're at a concert of like a lot of electronic music, but especially for like 2 days straight, something happens where even when we were on the train ride going to the airport, I would hear like just the mechanics of the train that were moving, and I would hear EDM music in my head, or I would hear someone tapping something and I would hear like it just. So as we were turning the corner after security, we heard dun, dun. We're like, oh, here we go again. Our minds are creating fucking EDM music from just the world. And we kept getting closer and closer. It gets louder and louder. We're like, what the hell? We turn the corner again, and there's this like hot air balloon display up in the airport with a DJ playing a set and with people being down below, like listening and jamming to the music. And I'm like, what? And then I look at the screen, it has the DJ's name and it keeps flashing different like writing. And one of the text pieces said, enjoy another set or some extra music before your flight. And I'm like, oh, I bow down to you, Tomorrowland execution team. Like, this is why Tomorrowland is a 12 out of 10 experience. And I want you to just think creatively now from this. How can you surprise and delight your clients to that level where they're like, it's over. It's over. We're done. That was amazing. 10 out of 10. And then it's like, no, it's not over. I am still here for you. I'm still here to surprise and delight you. And they're just like blown away. So that to me was insane. I got to cross off a bucket list item I didn't even know I had, which was freaking dancing my ass off and shuffling at the airport. I think it's in that highlights section too that I just mentioned on my Instagram. So go check that out. But yeah, you'll see all the energy, and there were people literally like, yeah, dancing and partying at the airport, and they're all the Tomorrowland people. And then all the other people were like, what the hell is going on? And I wonder how many of them were like, I want to be there. I want to jump in. I want to like dance too, but I'm too self conscious or I'm too nervous. Um, or yeah, all of those overthinking things, right? And we were just already kind of like accustomed to being at a festival for 2 days, being around quote unquote our type of people that are just like, we don't judge each other. We're just there to just enjoy the thing we have in common, right? So it's like, it's just interesting, very interesting to see, to observe the people around the airport that are not dancing. And I'm not assuming, right? Because I'm not going to look at all the people that aren't dancing and then I'm not going to be the one to be like judging them. Oh, they're not dancing. Like, why are they so stuck up? Whatever. No, it's just an interesting observation. I'm so curious. And I always wish I could read people's like there's little bubbles above people's heads with like their thoughts flashing so I can see, because I wonder how many of them were holding back, trying to be like being who they really wanted to be in that moment and just say, fuck it, I'm going to be free. I'm going to go dance. Even though I haven't been to Tomorrowland, but I'm really liking this music and I just want to go dance. How many of them held that back? And how many were just like just naturally not interested and were like, I'm happy for them, but it's not my thing. So I'm just going to sit here and watch and enjoy people watching, right? It's always just such a curiosity for me of how many people are holding back who they truly are. Because, yeah, it could be exhausting. And so I love spreading that message of like courageously lean into just doing what you want, because as long as you're like not hurting anyone, you're not actually being violent with your words, your actions, like really what is there to hold back? Why are we scared, right? So that's the Tomorrowland phase. Okay, so now there is the airport phase, which has the last three lessons. So lesson number 9 is called release attachments. So when we flew from, okay, no, when we went through security, partied a little bit in the Tomorrowland airport situation, and then we're walking to our gate, out of nowhere, Rory gets an email and it says, because we were getting on a flight that was going to fly us to Munich, Germany from Belgium, and then Munich to Toronto. So it said on the email, your flight from Munich to Toronto is canceled. And that's all it said. And we're like, what the heck? It's canceled. Okay. So in that moment, I don't know, whenever there's like that kind of stuff happening, I'm like, oh, I'm good. Whatever happens, happens. If we have to stay an extra night in Europe, oh, not so bad. I felt a little bit more for Rory because he had to go back to work the next day, like at his job, and I have my own business, so I didn't have anything pressing that I need to do. Like that's why I don't fly anywhere close to wedding days, because I do not want to fuck with that. But if it's just like a day where I need to catch up on work, I have my laptop so I can, right? So I wasn't so stressed about that. So I was fine in that moment. I felt for Rory because he was a little stressed, but it didn't last long. It lasted 2 minutes because he's also really good at being like, well, it's out of my control. What can I do? Why are we going to spend the rest of our trip stressing? I'm just going to relax. And he contacted support, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, like I'm going to keep it short. Long story short, we could not, like that flight was done. It was canceled. and we had to stand in a really long, we flew to Munich, so we got on that flight. And then that's when I was like, okay, so we're just going to fly to Munich, land there, and then run to the counter as fast as we can to hopefully just get a rebooked flight for that night or the next day, whatever. So we're working on that. We stood in a really long line, 2 hours, got a flight rebooked, but it was only for the next day. So we had to stay in Germany for another 24 hours, which I was like, sure, I don't mind. And then the person that was helping us and rebooked our flight. Oh, by the way, another thing, Rory read that if our flight got canceled and it got delayed by that much time, by more than 5 hours, I think, um, we could have gotten like so much money back. So it was like a potential like $1,600 back. So I was like, sweet. And then free hotel stay. And then, you know, we could cash in our receipts for dinner that night and any like essentials that we needed, like a toothbrush or whatever. Right. So I'm like, okay, sweet, adventure. So then this is where things turn around. So we go to the counter where we have our flight rebooked. And then I asked the guy, I'm like, okay, but what about our luggage that we checked in? Because we came from Belgium and we're now in Munich. And then that luggage, there's no flight for it to get on. So where's it going to go? And he's like, oh, okay, I'll figure that out. So he calls someone. He writes down on a piece of paper, go to carousel, whatever. I forget what number it was. Maybe it was 9. So we go to the carousel 9 and we're just sitting there. I got the urge to, I mean, I haven't worked for like 10 days at that point. And I'm like, we're just sitting here at a carousel. I'm like, I'm just going to go into my emails and just start catching up. So I do that and I'm like in the zone working. And I'm like, I could just sit here for a couple more hours catching up on email. And then Rory's like, I talked to the like lost luggage place and they're like, you might as well not even wait here because there's a huge like backlog of luggage, of canceled flights, because when we were flying just about a week and a half prior, somewhere along that time, there was something in the news where something about airlines got hacked and all these flights got canceled and delayed. So I think we were just like in the end part of whatever was happening, that domino effect. And I'm like, in that moment when he's like, yeah, the luggage people are like, you might as well just leave, go enjoy your time in Germany for 24 hours because there's no point of you waiting it here because we don't know where it is. We can't track it. That was my worst nightmare, you guys. When Rory said that to me and we were waiting there for maybe an hour at the carousel, I was determined. In that moment, I wanted to wait 5 hours there. Whenever I think of flying and my luggage not, and I would never ever worry about this, you guys, because I'm like, if I worry about it, I'm going to attract it. So I've never ever ever even had the thought of it not coming home with me, like landing with me. And then a couple years back, a friend of mine said, oh, they've been losing a lot of luggage lately. And I hate it when people fucking say that shit to me. And I know I need to like release that too, because I'm like, no, get that thought out of my head. I don't want to program myself that that's even an option. But then, of course, my intense reaction to someone saying that to me, like, oh, I don't trust airlines anymore. They've been losing a lot of luggage since the pandemic, blah, blah, blah. Like, by the way, when I'm saying this to you guys, don't program yourself like that. That's just like one person's opinion. But my intense reaction, my passionate reaction to that statement clearly brought to the surface my attachment to, if that were to happen, if I were to lose my luggage, that would be worst case scenario. I don't want that to happen. I don't want that to happen. And it started spiraling my brain to, I don't want that to happen. And so for the last handful of trips, I'm going to be honest, in the back of my mind, as much as I tried to like think it away and feel it away, like I was a little worried and I would be relieved when the luggage arrived. And I've been traveling a lot over my life and I've never had these worries. And so when Rory said it, like, they don't know where it is, it's currently like untrackable pretty much, I started to take deep breaths because that was my worst nightmare, because I have been so attached to all my favorite clothes I put in there. If I'm going for a freaking 10-year anniversary trip, I'm going to wear all my favorite clothes. I'm going to feel good. All of my favorite clothes that I've like collected over the years, like from different places around the freaking world, like Morocco, Tulum, Poland, Canada, like everywhere. And I was so attached. And I'm like, Sarah, this is another lesson you're collecting on this trip. I'm like so proud of how I handled it. I was taking deep breaths. I already was consciously aware to it, so I didn't react. I wasn't like upset. I didn't like take it out on Rory. I didn't like take it out on the people at the desk. I was just like, okay, this is happening. This is happening. Okay, now just turn into manifesting that you end up being reunited with your luggage at some point. And so I'm like, it's out of my control. There's nothing I can do. Um, this or something better, this or something better. I remember Manifestation Babe saying that, this or something better. And I think it's so powerful because, again, there's so many like moments in my life where in the moment the circumstance feels terrible and like, why is this happening to me, right? But then in later down the years in retrospect, I'm like, oh, this brought me to this and now everything is better. So I was like, I surrender, I trust. Let's go out to dinner. Let's go to get a hotel room, get a lot more sleep before we go get to be parents again, right? I was just being super positive. And then we we arrived to the airport the next day. We get to the counter and the luggage lady, we ask her, we're like, anyway, you have these numbers. We had like the numbers of the luggage to track. She's like, oh yeah, they're in the system here. They're going to be on your flight. And I'm like, what? That's amazing. Oh my God. Okay. So my manifestation worked. Like I was just like unattached, all of that. Like I was very proud of myself. I'm like, oh my gosh. Okay. Our luggage is on the flight. So we get to the airplane that's now, so we pretty much, the flight that we had to get rebooked was Munich to Iceland and then Iceland to Toronto. So there's another whole travel journey. So we're on the flight, we're sitting on the flight in Munich. We're waiting to take off. It was a 45-minute freaking delay. And then Rory's looking at his watch. He's like, Sarah, if this is like delayed any further, or like I don't know how we're gonna make our next flight from Iceland to Toronto. We might need to like stay in Iceland. Like I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy. So I'm trying to be calm, whatever. Then the airplane takes off throughout the whole flight. I'm like, whatever, unattach, like maybe the plane will wait for us, right? I'm like putting it out there. I'm like, the plane will wait for us. I'm like telling Rory, I'm like, you never know. Sometimes planes wait. I've been on planes where they've been delayed because they're saying they were waiting for connecting flights. So we land, we tell them, oh yeah, no, but during the flight, okay, this is so fun. During the flight, I go to the bathroom and I walk through the front of the plane where there's like the like business class section, not like first class, like international flights, not those crazy extendable beds, but like the business section where it's like bigger seats, more space, like good food. And I walk past and I see the incredible meals that these people have and drinks. And I'm like, oh my God, this looks so good. And where we were sitting, I was sitting in the middle seat. Rory had the window, and then the guy next to us in the aisle smelled like cigarettes so badly and BO at the same time. And I was just like, meditate through it. This too shall pass. Like I hate the smell of cigarettes. It feels so unhealthy to me. Blech, I hate it. NBO at the same time. So it's just like not a pleasant flight. You know how you have those pleasant flights and then you have those less pleasant flights? So then when I was walking through the business class and they had these incredible like meals, I was like, ooh, I'm going to have that one day. And I just said that to myself. And then we land and we tell the stewardess, we're catching the next flight. Anyway, you could tell, like announce to the plane, like anyone who's not getting connecting flight, stay seated. She's like, yeah, of course. So I'm like, perfect. Love my strategy. And then they did that. And so we got up right away. And then we noticed there's people beside us, behind us, also trying to catch the connecting flight and a similar one. And some of people's flights has already gone and left. And we're like, oh man, we feel bad for these people. So we got out of the plane, we bolt, and it was a short run because Iceland airport is really small and there was no one in the customs line. We still had to go to freaking customs too. And our plane was, the time that we landed was 15 minutes after takeoff. So we were like, holy shit, is the plane still there? We ran our asses off. We get there. Guess what? The plane is waiting for us. And I'm like, yes, Rory, fuck yeah, I told you. I'm like, sometimes they wait. So that happened. And then the guy is like, and then the guy is like, that's checking our boarding passes and checking us in. He's like, "Oh, there's an issue with your tickets." And we're like, "What? Like, can we just get home to Toronto?" And he's like, "Oh, let me just update this for you." And then he's like, and then Rory's like, "Oh, we can't have an issue." And then the guy cut him off. He's like, "Here you go. Now you're upgraded to like business class." And we're like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, enjoy. We just hadn't, more people book in the like they just had to do it for some reason. I don't know why." And so I'm like, okay, that's amazing. We sit down. We're the very first seats in business class. Right as I put my butt down on the chair, I don't even have my bags away. This guy comes over with a tray. He's like, champagne? I'm like, yes, that's amazing. And then 5 minutes later, I'm sitting there drinking my champagne. He comes around with a tray. He's like, macaroon? I'm like, yes, please, macaroon. I'm like, no way. And I realized what's happening. I'm like, the food that I was looking at on the previous flight is the same food because it's Iceland Air. Both flights were Iceland Air. I'm like, oh my God, I'm about to have the meal that I was looking at on the previous flight. So I went from this like not the best flight of this guy smelling like cigarettes and BO right beside us, like crammed in the middle seat, to this like luxurious experience. I'm like, this is amazing. And I had window seat this time because it was my turn, Rory, because we do turns. So that was happening. But then, of course, Rory and I are like, okay, so luggage. Because if it was on the other flight, which they say it was, and now we're behind and getting on this flight, are they going to get the luggage on this flight back to Toronto in time? And then we're like, it's out of our control. Fucking saying these mantras to ourselves the whole time we're flying back home. It's out of our control. We'll see. And so, okay. So before I tell you about what happened with the luggage, like this is where lesson 10 comes in. Okay. Lesson 10. Um, Luxury experience equals attention to detail. So for those of you that are you want to continue to up level your client experience so you can up level the type of clients that you get, and not even up level the type of clients, but I would say up level how much you can charge and actually get booked for. Because I mean, who wouldn't want to make more money per wedding or per session or whatever, and shoot less, make more, make the same amount, right? So if you are looking to improve the client experience, just pay attention to that attention to detail and the different moments of like surprise and delight. So, for example, like I mentioned, when I first sat down, right away, champagne on a tray, then macaroons. Oh, and then they bought me a cold water bottle. And then when the flight was flying and like seatbelts could be off, they handed me a drink menu and they're like, what drink would you like? Would you like a drink? And I looked and there's so many incredible options, like a martini, there was an espresso martini. And then I'm like, I would like an espresso martini. And then he came back and he's like, and would you like me to add it with a little bit of Bailey's for you? Would you like it to be more bitter? They were so specific, and I would not expect that on a plane. And it's because I don't fly business class, right? And so, what do you get in coach, right? It's like, what do you want to drink? You tell them apple juice or a wine, and it's like, here, right? There's just, it doesn't take it to the next level. So this gave me so much insight into, hey, if you do want to charge more, if you do want clients that will be your evangelists that are in that premium or luxury market, look at all these little things. So yeah, he's customizing my espresso martini how I want it, because there's different ways espresso martinis are able to be made. Then with the espresso martini, he doesn't just deliver the espresso martini, which he already went above and beyond with. He also surprises and delights with a little bucket of caramel popcorn. Caramel freaking popcorn. So I'm drinking my espresso martini, eating this caramel popcorn. It's so amazing. Then he brings a hot towel scented with lemongrass so I can just freshen up my hands. Like, this is incredible. Then I had a meal with a starter. The bun was warm and fresh, and it was sprinkled with like pink salt. You guys, this is like mouth-watering stuff. So I just wanted to share this with you as like another, inspiration moment to ask yourself the question, how can I surprise and delight along the way for all of my clients so that I can continue to increase my rates, increase my rates, increase my rates, and the referrals, they come, they come, they come, right? So that was that amazing experience. Let me just check my notes here. Oh yeah. So another thing part that he did. So um, they remembered. So the difference between coach experience on a plane is if I want more wine after their drink service, right? I have to like put my hand up, flying them down. Hey, excuse me, can I have more wine, right? But in the business class experience, when they see you low on your drink, they ask you and they're like, would you like more espresso martini? And they're specific of what you want. And did you like it with the Baileys? Do you want me to make it differently for you again? They specifically remember the conversations with you, right? So that's another thing to remember. So yeah, treating, and this is something I did a long time ago. This is something I just intuitively knew. If I start treating all of my clients as luxury clients, even when I'm just starting out as a photographer, even with my first wedding that I charged $900 for, if in that moment I do what I am able to with the resources that I have to do the best I can, to be like, this is my current luxury experience that I know how to provide. As a new photographer, I'm going to do my best. They're going to feel that energy. And then as you continue to learn more and more, and I used to deliver DVDs when I freaking first started, and then I up leveled to an online gallery. It's like the luxury experience you're able to create evolves. And you can't technically, I guess, call it a luxury experience when you're first starting out, but you can call it your version of it, right? Because we're always going to be figuring out how to improve things a little bit more here, there, surprise and delight, right? So I hope that inspires you. So we're flying to Toronto and we get there and we get to our carousel and we're waiting and we're waiting and we're waiting and I'm just like trying to practice like not being attached, right? I'm just like standing there being like neutral. If it arrives, cool. If it doesn't, not. And I kept saying this to myself, and this is lesson 11. This or something better. Um because I heard Manifestation Babe say this, and she's like, imagine, like, if you really want to unattach from a result, think of the positive thing that could come out of it if it doesn't happen the way you want it to. So let me give you an example. If what I want is to get my luggage back and get all of my beautiful clothes back, and the sentimental rock that we picked up on our trip to France, because we collect rocks, and that was very sentimental to me. If I want my bag back, what if I think of, okay, what's something amazing that could happen if I don't get it back? And that could create that more neutral feeling of like, oh, I'm good whether I get it back or I'm good whether I don't get it back. And so, for example, because they do reimburse you, I think it's like $2,000 per luggage for if you lose your stuff, even though that doesn't really cover everything. Because when I calculated stuff, it was like about $8,000 to $10,000 worth of shit in there. So, but I was like thinking positive. I'm like, okay, so I could take that $2,000 and I could go on a shopping spree and I could just like have a whole new fresh bunch of clothes, and I can also learn a huge lesson in unattachment and realizing that it's not the material possessions that bring happiness into our lives. And I was already so amazed at how strong I was throughout the process that I'm like, oh damn, maybe I'm not so attached to those clothes and maybe they don't actually bring me that much happiness. That was the best freaking lesson. Like, the clothes don't bring me the freaking happiness. It's my presence, it's my attitude, it's my personal power, it's my relationships. It's just being in tune with life and seeing the possibility and the abundance around it, even in the hard circumstances. That is the gift. That is what makes me happy. And I don't need those clothes to be happy. And it's like I had that powerful realization. And so when we were standing at the carousel, our luggage didn't come through. And we had to go to the people, the file the report. We then drove home, left the airport without our luggage. That's never happened to me before in like my, how many years have I traveled? Like 20 years of traveling. And so I'm like, okay, this is it. And but there's a chance, there's a chance they find it. We have the tracking numbers, whatever. And long story short, about a week later, after getting back home, we got a notification that one of our pieces of luggage is coming and arriving. And it was late at night, and they literally, some random like courier driver texted us or called Rory. He's like, I'm going to be there 11 p.m. And Rory's like, 11 p.m.? Like, we want to go to sleep, but okay, yeah, her luggage. So Rory and I are like, whose is it? Is it mine? Is it yours? Is it mine? Is it yours? And I was like, so good, whether it was mine or his, like genuinely, I was so unattached and I'm so proud of myself. I cannot believe that I got to that point, because that was my worst nightmare, losing my shit, losing my clothes, right? And so he goes to the driveway, and it's my luggage. My luggage shows up, and Roy's like, damn it, I wanted my stuff. And oh my gosh. So we bring it into the house, and then there was like the moment of truth, because I packed a red bottle of wine in there. Wine that we bought at a winery in France. And and I wrapped it really well, but like if you think about how many times it got like moved around, I'm like, oh my god, okay. But I wasn't too scared. Rory was more. We opened the bag, moment of truth, red wine, did not break, did not spill, everything was there. And I was just like, wow, I am so grateful, because I actually genuinely grew spiritually to not be so attached to my clothes anymore. And it feels so freeing and liberating. So freeing. And when we had to put together a report, like literally mentioning all the items that were in there, assuming how valuable they were, and sending it to them in case they couldn't find our luggage and in case they had to reimburse us. And I had to go mentally through my head remembering every single item that was in there. And I was like, I think I remembered everything. I think I remembered everything. And I wrote everything down. When I opened up my bag, you guys, I forgot like 1/3 of the things. And 1/3 of the things were still some of my favorite pieces. So if we think like, oh no, I don't think I can go on in life if one of my favorite sweaters gets destroyed or whatever, life goes on. Like there'll be another sweater, another time. Like that's a huge lesson for me in unattaching. So that was huge. So I'm so happy, because when it comes down to, oh, by the way, so Rory also got his bag back 2 days later. So we both got our bags back, which is amazing. And now to sum it all up, because lesson 11 is this or something better. To sum it all up, from the moment we found our flight was canceled to then the moment of us not knowing if we would get our things back, um, so much good transpired, because not only did I learn to unattach from my things, not only did I have a first like a business class experience on a flight, we also got an extra 24 hours together in Germany. And lastly, how exciting is this? Rory just told me that we just got a $2,000 refund from Lufthansa, which was the flight airline that had to cancel our initial flight, and then the bags were lost, all that stuff. We got $2,000 back for that whole fiasco. And it's like, at the end of the day, we're healthy, we're safe, we made it home, we have all our stuff, which is a bonus, and then bonus $2,000 back from like a huge epic trip that we took. So it literally all worked out as this, which was just us flying home normally, getting our luggage, or something better. We had like a whole nother experience, and we got so much money back. So just remember, take this with you. If you're going through something that feels hard, that feels challenging, that's challenging your ego, or you're feeling super attached to like a certain result or outcome that you want, like trust me, it just feels so much more easy and liberating and freeing to just release it, let it go, and tell yourself this or something better. I trust. So that is the end of this huge story episode with the 11 lessons that I gathered, that I learned, that I really wanted to pass down to you. I love nerding out about this kind of stuff. If you also love gathering lessons through your life and business, DM me, let me know. Be like, I'm a lesson gatherer too, like just so we can connect on that. And yeah, so if you found this episode entertaining, if you found it even useful as like a business inspiration episode, because there's a ton of metaphors in here of how to show up confidently and unapologetically as yourself in your brand, how to improve your client experience, all of that. I would be so grateful if you could just share this episode to your stories on Instagram, tag me so I can see, so I can reshare, I can connect with you. And so other photographers can also connect with this episode, get the lessons and wisdom that they need, their soul needs, because I felt really excited and called to create this episode. And I know when I have that feeling, that means people are going to find value from it. And it's also just a fun one, a really fun one to record as well. And finally, lastly, if you want to get the step-by-step process of how you can cut your working time behind your computer by up to 70% in a affordable way, like I teach photographers at any budget level how to outsource and get their time back. Like, so there's no excuse. There's no excuse here because it's actually so affordable. And just like keep up with the podcast episodes coming out, keep up with the really fun things I have coming your way, like a masterclass, all of that. But if you do want to make sure you don't miss any upcoming podcast episodes on this topic, the free masterclass I have coming out, make sure to get on the wait list. And when you are on the wait list for OMI, you will also get access to secret opportunities that are not available anywhere else to the public, to anyone else. It's just the waitlist that gets it. So go to link in my show notes, sarahmonica.com/freedom, get on the waitlist for OMI, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye. Yay! Thank you so much for hanging out with me and tuning into this episode. If you got value out of it, please feel free to message me on Instagram at SarahMonicaPhoto. That's Sarah no H, Monica with a K, photo, to let me know. I get so freaking energized hearing from others that what I've said has had a positive impact on their lives. Also, make sure to hit subscribe to the Shine and Thrive podcast to never miss an episode. I'm so grateful for you, and I'm sending you all the productive vibes your way so you have the best week ever.